For more on that, we're joined now by Natasha Mazzone, the DA's Shadow Minister of State Security, as well as Ganief Hendricks, member of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. Good evening. Good to have you both with us tonight. Natasha, let's start with you. Diane Kolobana is saying that this is a number one choice as far as the Democratic Alliance is concerned. Why?
Well, I think it's quite clear that Mr. Fazel has come across with some very innovative ideas for how to fix what we know is an absolute collapse of the intelligence structure within South Africa. I think that we've seen exactly what kind of damage can happen when you have the departments of state security not all operating together and operating in various silos. This past weekend, for example, the terrorist threat that South Africa was potentially facing, the fact that it was learnt about by the general public off a foreign missions website, goes to show how desperate we are for an Inspector General of Intelligence who is actually willing to break down the barriers between the different spheres of state security. And for the Democratic Alliance, Mr. Fazel certainly showed some great ideas, and he has what we seem to see as an open door policy in terms of interacting with the political parties that have to conduct oversight. And I think that it's very important that we give him a chance. He needs a fair chance to put what's right wrong, because you simply cannot have an intelligence agency without a head. And the Democratic Alliance feels out of all the candidates, Mr. Fazel certainly came out as the shining candidate.
Yeah. Ganief, he is, of course, supported by, I suppose, a simple majority, but a large number of those parties coming in the support of Mr. Fazel. How much of a gap in as far as the oversight role that this particular IGI would need to be closing? As you hear there, the Minister and the President is saying there's been this gap as far as this issue of oversight.
Look, he was elected by a 2/3 majority and not a normal 50%, so you're quite correct. He has the support of most of the political parties. As far as the oversight is concerned, as you know, that members of parliament have absolutely no oversight over what the intelligence service does. And I don't think that his appointment will improve the oversight. And even Chief Justice Zondo criticized the one entity that had some sort of oversight. But as far as oversight is concerned, the impression is given that that is also a lame duck. So there is no oversight. And we obviously feel that the legislation as recommended by the high-level panel should change that. It cannot be that a very important sector of our safety and security is run in such a way that there is no oversight by the 400 members of parliament. So when I met with the president and other political party leaders after the July insurrection, I told the president this country is not in safe hands. And after that, as you know, the Minister of Intelligence left for greener pastures, and the National Intelligence was placed in the Presidency. And that's all we got. And now after that, all we now have is the appointment of an Inspector General that will monitor and review State Security Agency, the Defense Intelligence, and Crime Intelligence. So I think it's very important that there should be a mini plenary debate, and the 400 members of parliament should tell the nation what they expect of our intelligence services, and we hope that the newly inspected Inspector General will be the person to take this forward.
Yeah. A lot of the parties have already spoken about what they expect, the Democratic Alliance in particular, I think the EFF, and maybe even the UDM. The three areas being Phala must be investigated immediately, track down and return the millions that were looted as articulated in the Commission of Inquiry report. And of course, you've already touched on one of the other areas, implement the high-level review panel report, part of which it recommends the changing of the legislation. I mean, do you think those should be the priorities for this Inspector General?
Look, the country has more urgent priorities. We saw what happened in July. We are aware of the fact that our crime intelligence in the police needs to be jacked up because gangsters now attend boardroom meetings with provincial police commissioners. There are a lot of priorities for our personal safety. Phala should be last on the list. That is not a concern. That doesn't affect South Africans. What affects us is our personal safety, the kidnappings, the gender-based violence. It was earlier alluded to that they're not working together. And I hope he's not going to waste his time with Phala. I mean, there are other agencies that has got that job and they must then carry out their responsibilities.
Yeah. Natasha, what's your feeling on that? I mean, should Phala be top of that list in terms of the work of the IGI?
Look, I think Phala has to be investigated, but I think that the core problem here is quite simply that the Office of the Presidency has no committee anymore that oversees its oversight. So every other office in Parliament, so every other ministry, and the Presidency is its own ministry, has an oversight committee. And the Presidency does not. So I think that the first thing that we should be doing, as Mr. Hendricks says, bring 400 members of Parliament together. But let's not just tell the Inspector General what we expect him to do. Let's demand, as 400 members of Parliament, that there is a oversight committee on the Office of the Presidency. And then I think, Phala and the furore around it would be done away with, because we would already have a committee in Parliament investigating the incident, and we would have already had answers. But I don't think that the President should be let off the hook when it comes to the Phala incident. I'm terribly concerned about the safety and security in our country. I do feel like we are sometimes sitting on smouldering grass that's just waiting for the wind to pick up. And we saw that in July with the insurrection that happened in July, how quickly it can happen and how quickly it can become out of control. So I think Phala is very, very urgent and needs urgent intervention, because after all, it does affect our commander-in-chief. And that's why I keep repeating that the state agencies, the state intelligence agencies, the state security agencies must stop working in silos and start working together. Because once they start working together, we're going to get a lot of answers to a lot of questions. And Judge Zondo himself, his greatest criticism of Parliament was the lack of oversight that Parliament had on essential elements of the committee. So it's my opinion that one of the things that the JSCI, the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence, needs to do is we need to sit down as a committee and also amend legislation to decide what is actually in the public interest and what remains top secret. Because it is of my opinion that there are many documents that are marked top secret only for the benefit of very few, when they should actually be broadly discussed and be put in the public domain. So I think in a very short space of time, a lot has to happen. And I think Mr. Fazel has his work cut out for him in terms of a group of MPs who have had to put up with the likes of Arthur Fraser and the shenanigans that went on around that whole debacle. And the MPs are expecting a much improved relationship with our new Inspector General. But should Phala be just pushed to the side? I say no way. Investigated immediately.
I appreciate you both. Thanks so much for coming on. Out of time, Natasha Mazzone, DA Shadow Minister for State Security, and Ganief Hendricks, a member of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence.